I'm Tori Cook. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at Chorus Connection. Today we're going to be talking about revamping your annual fund. So this is my first Facebook Live video ever, so please be patient with me. I promise I'll get better as we do more of these, but I might mess up and I apologize in advance. But I'm really excited to be doing this with you. Today's format, I'll spend about 30 minutes talking about revamping your annual fund. I'll do a quick wrap up of some key takeaways, and we're going to end it with a Q&A from you, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. My colleague Kenny is in the comments section. He's monitoring any questions you guys have throughout, so feel free to drop anything that you have, any thoughts, ideas, comments, questions in the comments area, and he'll let me know all of those at the end of this, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. So I'd like to just go ahead and give you some very quick background about my fundraising experience. I worked for about 6 years at the American Cancer Society as their Relay for Life volunteer, where I planned an event that raised about $80,000 every year in a town of 35,000 people. So my job there was to basically plan the event and also train fundraising teams to raise money for their teams. So I spent a good chunk of time doing that. And in the last 2 years, I've served as president of Chorus Pro Musica. My role there is not fundraising. However, I did launch our first Facebook Giving Tuesday campaign last year. And that raised us about $17,000 in 2017, actually. And we also did it last year as well. And over the last 2 years, because of that campaign, we've really almost doubled our annual fund goals. So that's been really, really exciting. So that's just a brief background of my fundraising experience. So now I'm just going to go ahead and dig right into the program and talk about ways that we can help you make the most of your annual fund. So the first thing is that just defining the annual fund. This is going to be very different from organization to organization, but my definition of an annual fund for my chorus is that it means any unrestricted revenue that we get in from donors to help us sustain the organization and to pay for our general operating support. So to me, that's what our annual fund is. It doesn't mean any endowments. It doesn't mean any corporate sponsorships or sponsorships. It's really just trying to get all of the money in that we need to run the organization. And there are about really 3 goals in my mind of running an annual fund campaign, and you might have your own specific goals. It's really going to vary by your organization. But for me, the priorities are to make sure that the organization has a reliable source of annual income that comes in every year to sustain the organization. We also want to encourage donors to continue giving and hopefully increase their donations over time. And we want to expand our donor pool and bring in new donors for the organization. So those are the 3 goals for me of what I want to do with my annual fund campaigns. Again, those might be different for you. And so what do we do? So I talk to choruses a lot all over the country in my job and in Boston, getting to know everybody. And it seems that we all have one way of doing our annual fund. Certainly there's some more advanced groups, but a lot of us are still sending physical mail to our contact list, maybe once or twice a year. So I'm not going to call us out or anything, but if you're at home right now, just do a little raise your hand if that's what you guys do for your annual fund. Okay, don't worry, a lot of us are doing that. Some organizations don't actually do anything for their annual fund. So my goal today is to get you to think a little bit outside of the box with your annual fund and think about taking your one-channel approach of reaching out to your donors and turning it into a multi-channel approach, where you're taking as many marketing channels as you have at your disposal and using those to run your annual fund campaign. So that is my goal today, is to get you to think a little bit outside of the box there. All right, so how do you do that? So we need to start by talking about the few things that you really have to have prepared in advance before you run an annual fund campaign. So the first thing that you want to do, ideally, is make sure that you have at least one person who's responsible for your annual fund campaign, whose job it is to come up with the strategy of the annual fund and to work with your marketing and development teams to implement that strategy. So making sure that one person is assigned as the bare minimum, one or two people, or a team of people, however many you want. The second thing that you really want to make sure is happening at the organization is that your development teams and your marketing teams are talking. Oftentimes, development is off in their own world, marketing is off in their own world, and dev isn't coming to marketing and saying, we need your help to run a campaign so we bring in money. So that's another important thing that I think is missing in a lot of our organizations right now. So get your dev team and your marketing team talking about this. The third thing that is absolutely vital is to have some sort of donor database where you're keeping track of your donors, you have their email information, you have their address information, you have some form of contact information stored in a donor database. And that donor database also talks to some of your marketing channels, like your email marketing channel. There are a ton of donor databases out there. And I think Kenny is actually going to drop a link to one of the articles for you that we have that recommends some donor management systems. But it's super, super crucial that we have a donor management system that we can use to market for the annual fund. So once you have those three things in place, a volunteer, your marketing and dev team are starting to communicate about this, and you have a donor database, then you can really start to build an annual fund campaign strategy. So let's talk a little bit about that. This is really weird, by the way, just talking and talking and talking. I hope that you're getting something out of this so far. So building an annual fund strategy, which is also a really important thing before you start going crazy with this. The first thing that you're going to want to do is identify and write down your fundraising goals. This is going to be different for everyone. Maybe you have a specific amount that you need to raise by the end of the year. You need to raise $20,000 every year for your annual fund. That could be a goal. You might have another goal of increasing your donor pool. Let's say you want to bring in at least 30, 50, 100 new donors to your donor pool this year. That could be another goal. Other examples is to, for example, increase your recurring monthly giving donations. So let's say you only have one person signed up to give you recurring monthly gifts. You could say, we want to increase that to 10. And another just example, there's a million examples out there, but another example is to increase your individual giving amounts. So let's say that you go into your goal, or you go into your annual fund campaign, and you know that you have 100 people who give you $50 a year. You want to increase their donations to 75, or you want to increase your $100 donors to 150. So you could also have an individual giving goal. The idea with figuring out your goals is really to make it specific and measurable, and that you have a metric in place for tracking whether you're successful with your goal. Make sure that you write down this goal and that you and your dev team and your marketing teams know the goal, and you know how you're going to track that goal to see if it's successful. Because ultimately, metrics are what we're going to use in order to improve this in the next year. So we really need to have those in place. So that's your first thing, is to figure out your goals. The next thing is to really figure out when you're going to do this campaign. Certainly, people raise money for the entire year for their annual funds, and that's great. But personally, I think that the most successful campaigns are over a specific given time frame. So let's say that you do a spring and a fall appeal every year, and you really target 1 or 2 weeks of that dedicated to your annual fund efforts. I think that choosing a time frame for annual fund campaigns is super important for two main reasons. One is that it's going to create a sense of urgency for your donors. They're going to feel like this time crunch is they need to give by the end of this time frame if you've set a date to it. And then the second reason is that it's going to give your marketing team one thing to focus on instead of all of the million other things they have to do, like concert promotions and recruiting and all of that stuff. This is going to say to your marketing team, during this 2-week time frame or 1-week time frame or whatever you decide, we really need marketing to focus on getting us donations for the annual fund. So that's why I think it's much better to choose some campaign dates for running your annual fund. It's going to depend totally on your organization. You might want to do this once a year. You might want to do it 3 times a year. It really will depend on your donor database and a variety of other factors. So you've got your goals, you've got your campaign dates, and you're working with marketing now to think through all of the ways that you're going to meet your goals. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you're with your marketing team and you have your goals and you have your dates. And hopefully your marketing team has also said, these would be really good dates for us to work with your annual fund campaign. You're going to start to talk to your marketing team and say, okay, what types of channels can we use to maximize our annual fund donations? What's overkill? What's time-wise can we do? And they're going to be able to give you a really good sense of how much time they can commit to the project, what types of marketing channels they currently use, your website, your blog, your social media, your email marketing, all of those things. And they'll be able to give you a little bit more information about what they are capable of doing. And from that, then you start to build out the channels. And I'm going to go through each channel with you and talk about how to utilize them. But that's kind of the first step, is to think through with marketing what channels you want to use. The second step is to craft the appropriate messaging for your campaign. I'll give you an example. This year was Chorus Pro Musica's 70th anniversary, so we decided to build our annual fund campaign around 70, the number 7, the number 70. So all of our messaging across the channels was, give $70, give $7 at 70th anniversary. So it was very clear communication and clear messaging across all channels of what we were trying to do with our annual fund. And usually the messaging, I think it's always good to let your donors know what your goals are. If it's particularly if it's like a financial goal, like we really want to raise $15,000 in the next 2 weeks, help us do it. And that way they get a sense of accomplishment too, you know, if you meet that goal. So I think figuring out the messaging with marketing is another important thing you want to do. And once you have the dates, your goals, and the general messaging, then you start to, again, you've kind of identified some of your channels. You want to create all of the imagery that goes along with everything. So you can already start to see that marketing here is really, really key for making this successful. You might also brainstorm some ideas with your marketing team of specific content that you want to create for this campaign. Do you want to do a video about what it means to be in this chorus? Do you want to write a blog, have a member write a blog about why they give to this organization? What types of specific content can you create and use to inspire your donors to give? And we're going to talk a little bit about more about that too. So think through some content you'll want to use, and again, how you'll promote that content with your channels. And the last kind of thing I want to say about talking with your marketing team is that you really want to give them you really want them to feel like they can dedicate all of their efforts to this. I know I mentioned this before, but they should be able to dedicate all of their efforts to the annual fund, so they're not overwhelmed. What's the worst thing to do to a donor or a contact is to send them an email to donate, and then send them an email to buy a ticket, and then send them an email to ask for singers for your chorus. You really want your donors and your contacts to think of what we call in the marketing world, call to action to do. And during this time frame, you want them to take that action. And that's the most important thing, is to get them to take that action. And so you really want this campaign to be the only thing that is going on, so that anytime someone visits your website, anytime they go to your social channel, anytime they get an email from you, it's very clear what you're asking them to do. Okay, moving on. So the channels are really what I want to get to today. So you've done all of your prep work, you've got your strategy, you've got your goals, you've talked to marketing to figure out what they're capable of doing, the types of content you might want to create. So now, how are you going to implement this? So I'm going to talk about a variety of channels. Some of them you might have, some of them you might not have, some of them you might want to consider getting. So the first thing is, yes, you should still consider sending physical mailings to your contact database. That's great. It's a great way to do it. Usually you have, the people who have given in the past, it's just a reminder for them to give. It's a great channel to use. One way that you can maximize your physical mailings is to target it a little bit more. So if you have a donor database that can let you create letters from their data, then you can basically create letters that's targeted towards each people or each person. I'll give you an example. So let's say that you want your $50 donors to give you 75. You can run a list of people who have given you $50, create a template letter that pulls in the amounts that they gave last year and asks them to increase it. So you could do this across your donor pool. You could do this for your $50 donors, you could do it for your $100 donors, you could do it for your $250 donors, whatever, and segment it a little bit more so that it feels highly personalized. So that's one way you can kind of up the ante if you're just doing physical mailings. But what I would love us to think about is not just doing physical mailings. So let's talk about digital. So your website and your blog is key to everything, really. Your website really is key to everything. So if you're running an annual fund campaign, you must update your website. The first thing is that your website should always really have a donate button somewhere on it, or some page where you ask people to donate to the organization. One thing that you can do with an annual fund campaign specifically during your 1 or 2 week time frame, whatever you have, is to create a specific page on your website dedicated to that. And it has all the messaging and all the imagery that you and your marketing team have decided on. It has a big donate button on it. It tells the donor exactly what they need to do. And then all of the other channels that you're going to use, your social, your email marketing, all of that is going to link over to that page, ideally, so that they can get more information about the organization, they can see why they should donate, and then they can donate on that page. So trying to get a centralized location of where people can go to donate is a really good idea. And I highly recommend doing that on your website, having that one page. Another thing you can do is change out your homepage imagery a little bit so that it's linking to that page. So on your homepage banner image, like many of us have, you can have that link over to that annual fund page. You'll also want to get your designer to design some sort of annual fund banner image that matches all your imagery and messaging to go to that page. So you can put that front and center on your homepage, ideally during the time frame that you've decided for your campaign. That is the only thing that's on your homepage of your website, because that's what you want people to do. If you do a video, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, you can put that right on your homepage too. You can put it inside of a blog. You can put it on the web page that you created specifically for the annual fund. So those are some things that you might want to do to your website to generate traffic over to the donation button, really. Again, look for all of the opportunities that you can in your own organization. So if your website has specific pages about donating or about the chorus that are just reasons why people would want to give, make sure that those pages are linking over to your donation button or linking over to the annual fund campaign. Just try to generate as much traffic as you can to that page. So that's your website. Another really great idea is to utilize your blog if you have one. Just a sample idea of what you could do. You could ask several of your members or your donors to write a story about why they give to the organization, or memorable moments with the organization. There's all kinds of different themes and content ideas you could do with the blog. If you're doing a 70th anniversary, someone in your archive team could talk about all of the things you've done over the last 70 years and how the organization has transformed. Any content that you can write or create that will inspire people to want to give to your organization. Try to get that on your website or your blog and across all your other channels as well. So the next thing I want to talk about is video. It's not really a channel. I guess YouTube would be a channel, or your website would be the channel that you would host the video on. but I felt like it was important enough that we should talk about it. I know there are some organizations that use video for their annual fund, and there's some that just have never done a video in their lives. I want to encourage people to use video because it's one of the most effective things we can do in marketing and fundraising, and it's often the most underused because it is really, really intimidating. But imagine if you had a video where you had your members talking about why they sing in your chorus and all of the amazing things that the chorus does and how much more that's going to impact a donor than a written email. It's going to impact them a lot, depending on the music you use and all the ways you edit it and everything. But ideally, like, video just has such an impact with people. It also helps in so many other marketing ways, but I can't get into that right now. So please consider doing a video for your annual fund. Now, how do you do a video? I have a great blog about video marketing that I think Kenny will also share with you. And in that blog, it talks about a DIY video studio that you can set up in your like chorus office space or your rehearsal space if you have space that you can leave it. It's about $300 or less to get like nice lighting, to get a tripod, and to get like background paper. And if you leave it in your space, you can go during any rehearsal to that space. You can bring your members to that studio, video studio, and you can just film things. You can ask them a bunch of questions about the organization. You can ask them questions about your upcoming concerts. And what you want to do is you want to have this space where people can come and film a lot of video footage. For your annual fund, you want to get them talking about why the organization is so great. You want to get them talking about, again, why they give and those kinds of things. So if you have a studio, you have the opportunity to create video marketing. You also don't need a studio. You can also just go in rehearsal and pull like 10 members aside and be like, I'm going to interview you for this annual fund thing. Let's do it. Usually if you do that on the spot, they're like, oh, okay. Maybe they're just, feeling intimidated, but it works. So just grab a few of your members and ask them some targeted questions so that you can create a killer video for your annual fund. I think I talked a little bit about some video ideas, but you can, talk about why the chorus is important to your singers. You can talk about why your singers donate. You can talk about what the money is used for. A lot of people don't understand how much money it takes to put on a concert. And you can educate all of your donors about why giving to your organization is important. So really pick a theme for a video and go with it and get as many interviews as you can for it. And then edit the thing as best as you know how and put it on your website, put it in your social, put it in your email marketing, and just get it out there. I've heard this before, and I don't know if I fully agree with it, but I kind of do, which is any video is better than no video at all. So even if it's not the highest professional quality, it's okay. Just start to do some video marketing and see how it goes, and then you'll get better as you do more and more of it. So if that's one thing that I could leave you with today, is I really want to see more videos out there from choruses talking about the amazing things that they're doing with their organizations. Okay, so we talked about physical mailings, website and blog, video marketing. Let's talk about email marketing. This is definitely one thing that I see a lot more organizations doing, which is great. So essentially what email marketing is sending email blasts to your donor database or your email subscriber list, asking for, or just, marketing anything that you've got going on. But the ways that you can use it for annual fund is what I want to talk about today. So email marketing, the first thing sounds really obvious, but it requires an email marketing platform. Email marketing platforms like MailChimp, Constant Contact, Emma, Vertical Response, those kinds of things. And ideally, your email marketing platform is going to sync with your donor database so that you can easily segment your donors later. Certainly, there's platforms that are all in one that allow your donors and your email marketing, all the data's living in one place. Those companies are like Vendini, Patron Manager. And then there's other systems that sync to your email marketing campaign. So for example, I have a donor database called Kindful, and then I sync that with MailChimp, and then I can create donor groups in Kindful and then email them from MailChimp. So there's several ways that can work depending on what systems you have. But ideally, what you want is your donor database and your email marketing platform to be talking somehow. If you don't do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about segmenting that, but if you don't do that, it's perfectly acceptable to send a general email blast to your general email marketing subscribers asking for donations, but it's not going to be as effective if you understand who that pool of people is. So certainly, if you don't have that syncing, still use your email subscriber list and promote the annual fund campaign through it. But again, having the donor data is super helpful. So let's talk about just brief tricks for sending email marketing. So the first thing is that if you have like a 2-week time frame, you want to send an appropriate amount of emails in that 2-week time frame for your annual fund. Talk to your marketing team, see what they can do, and see what they think is best practice. But for example, I'm just going to give you one random example. You don't want to send it every day. You could send one at the beginning of it, one maybe at the halfway point, one as like last chance to donate before our annual fund campaign is over, and then either one on the last day of your campaign or one after, thanking everybody for helping you meet your goal, hopefully. So that's kind of a cadence, an email cadence that you could use, but it's all going to depend on your marketing team and what they're capable of. So don't overwhelm your people with emails, but use it, and use it as a channel for raising donations for your organization. If you're not using it, you're really just not taking advantage of that opportunity. You're missing out on some donations, I can tell you. So let's talk about a little bit more advanced email marketing strategy. Again, similar to the physical mailings, if you're synced with your donors, then you can run really highly targeted email marketing campaigns to people. Let's say that your email marketing campaign, or sorry, let's say that your donors, you have a list of people who came to your last concert, or you have a list of people who gave last year but haven't given this year. You might want to change your marketing message to those different groups of people and make it so that it's more effective. For example, donors who gave last year who haven't given this year. How easy is it to run that list and just email them and say, you gave last year, can you please give this year again? It's really, really just as simple as that. It's just whether or not you're able to segment that from your donor list in order to send that message to them. Just other ideas for segmenting. We've talked about the increasing, if your goal is to increase donations from an individual standpoint, then you might want to segment it by your $50 donors, your $100 donors, your $250 donors, whatever, and ask those people to increase their size. And like, I'll just give you another example. If your email marketing is synced to your ticket sales platform, then you could segment out people who went to your last concert. And you could say, hey, if you liked our last concert, help us produce the next one, donate today. So I'm just trying to give you some ideas of how you might segment out your data and craft very targeted personal messages to these people without having to individually write every single donor or every single potential donor. So there's a million ideas for that, and at some point I'll write a great blog about that for you too. So using email marketing can be really, really effective, especially if you're targeting the messaging. And I just want to toss out here, I know that we're all crunched on time, but appreciating donors is super, super important. And one of the ways that you can appreciate donors, especially those who are your major donors, who give the most amount of money, instead of sending them blanket emails, pick up the phone, call them, thank them for their donation, send them a personal email follow-up. Just make sure that, when you do utilize these channels, that you're remembering the people who give the most, they need a lot of extra attention. So I would also recommend really thinking through that list as well. Who are your top donors, who need some personal touch, and make sure that you're calling them or talking to them in person. Maybe they're at your rehearsal. All right, hopefully that was somewhat good. I just feel like I'm talking so much, and it's so hard to do this when it's just you talking. I have a few other ideas for channels before we get to key takeaways and open it up for Q&A. So social media. Social media, again, is a really great channel that not many people utilize for increasing their donations. So when you have your annual fund webpage available on your website, make sure that you have social posts promoting that webpage. Make sure if you have a video that you're putting that on social media and that people can see all of your beautiful faces and learn more about the organization. You can do this with organic posts so that you don't have to spend money on any paid advertising or anything. But you can also experiment with advertising. One really effective way of targeting this on social media is to create, let's say that you have your video and you create a social post with your video, which is always going to be more impact than any content you could write. You got your video, it's in a post, and you want to pay advertising. Target it to the people who like your page and their friends. That's a really, really easy way that you can target it to reach people who will actually care about your organization. You know, hopefully your members are sharing this type of thing on your social media and their friends know about the organization. If they already know your name and you share that and you spend money to advertise to them, they're more likely going to give. One thing you don't want to do is spend a bunch of money and then don't target it at all. Most likely people, you know, across the world from you or across the country from you aren't going to look at that and want to give. So make sure that anything you do is always highly targeted as much as you can. A few social media ideas to just inspire you. Any content that you create, so any blogs, any videos, anything that you do there, make sure it's shared on social media. You can, for your web page that you have on your website, try to create like a shortened link or something like that that you can easily share on social media, and make sure that all your social media is going to that page. You can update all of the imagery that we talked about and all of the messaging that we talked about earlier. You can update on your social channels. So change out your Facebook banner image, change out your Twitter banner image, change your Instagram bio to be all about your annual fund, change your profile pics to be about the annual fund. So you can utilize the space, not just the posts that you make on social, but also the space that you have on social media to announce the annual fund. The more graphic, the same graphic that you have across all channels and the same messaging that you have, the more of that you have that's consistent across all of your channels, the more people are going to see it and remember it. So you really want to take advantage of every opportunity that you can to get that message and design out there. I hope I'm making sense. So other things that you can do on social in terms of the content that you can post, you can talk about your mission, you can have some members talk about it and share quotes that they've had from the video that you've created. You can source other content from other channels for your social media. So one thing that I love to do during an annual fund campaign is to look through the Americans for the Arts resources that they have, because there's all kinds of data about how community arts programs impact positively the communities that they're a part of. And so I love to source content from places like that, or Course America, or all of the scientific articles that talk about how singing is important. All of that kind of content can really help bring in or inspire giving to your annual fund. It's not about your organization necessarily, but it's about choral arts as a whole, and that kind of content is really important to share as well. So that's all I have about social media. I'm not sure everybody's organizations and if they have a social media team or whatever, but make sure that you're communicating with social media about this too. If there is a part of your marketing team, great, then you've already talked to them, but make sure they're involved with this. Okay, only 4 more channels, and there's probably a million more, but these ones are going to be quick and easy. Ticket sales pages. So let's say that your annual fund is in November and you have an upcoming holiday concert in December. On your ticket sales page, you can promote your annual fund and link back to your webpage to donate to. It's maybe not the best practice, but you can, if you can find a good way, a suitable and appropriate way to do that, why not? Put it on there. Let them know you're doing an annual fund. Another thing that some ticketing platforms allow you to do is to add a place where people can donate directly when they buy a ticket. So that's another really, really great way to just give them a way of giving right on their ticket sales page to help you increase your annual fund donations. Other things you can do, putting the annual fund in any of your concert programs. If a concert falls within the same time frame as your annual fund campaign, even better. But if not, keep putting information about your general annual fund donations, where your money goes. Make sure you thank your donors. Have something in all of your programs about about your annual fund and everything. Two more. So one thing, I'll actually switch this from my notes, but one thing that you can always do as part of the annual fund is events. You can do a walkathon, an auction, a gala, beer choir, which is huge right now, and I'm really excited about doing that at some point. Sing-along events. You can wrap up your whole annual fund campaign with a big event where people come and pay money to go, and all of that money goes to unrestricted revenue and everything like that. So that can be a big part of your annual fund campaign too. And then the last thing, which is probably the most important thing that I've saved for last for a reason, is to utilize your chorus members. Every single one of your members can be a fundraiser for your organization if you ask them. Facebook has made this incredibly, incredibly easy for organizations like us to do. If your organization, for example, is a nonprofit on Facebook, anybody can set up a fundraiser on Facebook for your organization. And so what we did with Course for Musica for the last 2 years is we specifically asked every one of our members, whoever was willing, to set up a fundraiser during our annual fund campaign time for the organization and to share that with their friends and family on Facebook. And we set individual goals for them. You know, we recommended that every member raise $100. That's asking 10 friends for $10. And that really motivated them because, one, it was really, really easy to set up on Facebook for them. But it really just, I don't know, it gave us this whole sense of community and camaraderie, and we were all in it together. And it was really, really, really inspiring. And I was very, very surprised that just asking people, I think we got 30 members our first year to set up a Facebook fundraiser for us. And they knocked it out of the park. I mean, we raised almost $17,000 in our first year just from that alone. I have to look at the numbers again, but we got another, 150, I think we got 150 new donors, all, friends and family of our members. So don't underestimate what your members can do on an individual level. Do they have to volunteer to be dev chair? No. But if they're willing to share your annual fund campaign and willing to have a stake in getting donations from their friends and family, then you can exponentially increase your donations. Taking one annual fund chair to, if you have 100 singer chorus, 100 individual fundraisers for you. This is really what I guess is called peer-to-peer fundraising. And the reason why I love this model is because like I said before, I worked for the American Cancer Society, and that was the model that a lot of large nonprofits used. They had individual volunteer teams who had a team of people, and everyone had a goal. Everyone was a volunteer, but everyone had a goal. And it works for them. I mean, you see this all the time, any walkathons, breast cancer walks, things like that. Every individual is out there raising money. So I think that this is one thing that choruses can really do that we maybe haven't experimented with a lot before, that can dramatically change the course of our future, really. So there are several ways you can do this. It doesn't have to be a Facebook campaign, but part of your annual fund campaign could be, how are we going to utilize our members to get the messaging out to their friends and family to donate? It could be, we give them a physical packet that they take to their friends and family. It could be we give them 3 template emails that they send to their friends and family. It could be, you know, we get everyone involved in a video and we ask them to share that in email or social to their friends and family. You can do this in a million ways. I do like Facebook in a lot of ways for this because Facebook makes it really, really easy to do. It takes 5 minutes to set up everyone with a fundraiser. They also don't charge any fees. You get to keep 100% of your donations. So I think that if you're just starting a peer-to-peer fundraising, Facebook might be the easiest thing you can do. I don't know if Kenny's already dropped a link to the blog, but there's a link to the blog that talks about how we ran this campaign and how we raised the almost $17,000. So I highly recommend reading that. Other things that you can do with utilizing your members is just make sure that all of them are giving something. Make sure that all of your members know how much money it takes to put on a concert and how much of their dues actually pay for the overall operating budget. My guess is it's a very small piece of the puzzle. And as a member, a singing member who's not on a board, they don't understand that. So really educate your members on the importance of giving. And encourage all of your members to give. There are so many ways you can do this in the rehearsal announcements, in your general course email communications. You can run, if you're feeling real crazy, you can run soprano, alto, tenor, bass competitions or whatever to get your members giving. But you know, make sure that your members know that giving is important and that it's part of being in the organization, and see if you can get 100% participation. So I think that's it about utilizing members. I feel like I've talked so much. So the final thing that I want to tell you is just the key takeaways that I think are really important with your annual fund, and then we'll do some Q&A. So key takeaways: get your development and marketing teams talking together and working together, not only just on your annual fund, but across the board. Everything you do should include marketing because they have all of the channels that are going to help you increase your donations. Number 2, make sure you have a donor management system in place, ideally one that talks to your marketing channels, your email marketing in particular. Again, there's several recommendations we can have. If you want recommendations, you can always email me directly or Facebook message me directly, and I'll be happy to share those. 3, create killer content, either videos or blogs that really inspire giving, that talk about the higher purpose of your organization, where the money goes, and why you need people to give. So important. 4, keep imagery and messaging consistent across all of your channels, regardless of what they may be. Make sure that it's all the same so that people can see the same thing across all your channels. And then 5, last one, is utilize as many channels as you can to get the message out there about your annual fund. Really think outside of the box. I didn't even touch on a million other channels you could do, but there's so many things you can do. So if there's one thing that I really hope you got out of this was that let's not just do one channel marketing for our annual fund. Let's not just send physical mailings. Let's think about ways we can utilize all of the channels at our disposal to help us increase the donations in our annual fund. I hope this was at least somewhat helpful for you. I promise that I'll continue to get better at this as we go. And hopefully you'll tune in for our next video, which is to be determined. And thank you so much for coming today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.